Hi there, Frank Giudici here, Northeast Business Development Director for Bedford Cost Segregation. I've been wanting to do this video for a while. It's something that it's driven me to kind of be who I am in this industry and to help spread the awareness. And you'll see more of this in 2021 as part of a podcast campaign that I'm putting together. But ultimately, I wanted to share a story about how I got into this industry and kind of a little bit of an unfortunate start in the industry, but it's really helped shape me and how I hold myself and carry myself going forward. So, I was a civil engineer, 4-year degree from Worcester Polytechnic Institute in Worcester, Mass. WPI, and basically spent 15 years in the construction management industry between two different nationally ranked, one nationally, one internationally, top ranked construction managers, and it was an unbelievable career. Learned more than I can even imagine. But ultimately was really getting burnt out towards the end, where the last 6 years of which I was a procurement manager for billion-dollar nanotech manufacturing facilities across the country. So ultimately, a lot of travel, a lot of long nights, and I was just really getting burnt out. So getting into the multifamily investing world, I found myself at a real estate conference in upstate New York, and bumped into somebody who basically introduced me to the cost segregation strategy. And quite honestly, I had never heard about it before, and I was intrigued. So I started doing some research back home, and it was totally legit. And I was just shocked that it was not a topic of more discussion. So I ended up contacting that person who introduced it to me at that real estate conference, and this particular person ended up being in touch with somebody locally that had their own boutique cost segregation firm. So I interviewed and had a couple of discussions on the side and went out to lunch and really was sold hook, line, and sinker on getting into the cost segregation industry because I saw the value add that existed with it, and I should date this. This was right around 2018, beginning of 2018, that this all kind of transpired. And in any case, I guess, looking back, made the mistake to take this particular gentleman at his word, and his claim to fame that he would tell people is that he spent 2.5 years being contracted by the IRS and helping them write the first edition audit technique guideline for cost segregation. And I said, wow, I mean, what an opportunity to be working for somebody who was basically one of the authors of the guidelines that the IRS uses for cost segregation. And seemed to be very knowledgeable, had a gift for gab and lots of stories to back it up. And in any case, I joined. I started working full-time and essentially was his business development guy and trying to generate work. And I would, obviously I would use that line of basically having your cost segregation studies performed by one of the authors of the original first edition audit technique guideline that was published in 2004 by the IRS, which really essentially solidified the cost segregation strategy by the IRS and erased the misnomer of it being more of a loophole. This was a legit strategy. And I should have done my own due diligence and background research before just believing this particular gentleman at his word, but spent a lot of time pitching that line. And it was fall of 2018, so less than a year, obviously, of working for this particular firm and gentleman, when I received a telephone call from a CPA client who had done his due diligence and actually did some background checking and realized that the person I was working for was a total fraud. And in fact, the contact name that this person gave that he worked for 2.5 years at the IRS did not even know who he was, did not know who his firm was. And I was shocked, to say the least, because this is someone who, I pride myself on my reputation and trustworthiness and hard work and all that other stuff. And it hit me hard. And basically, I vowed to find the most legitimate, reputable cost segregation provider that existed, and I wanted to work for them. I wanted to make sure that clients, other people looking for jobs in the cost segregation industry, were not bamboozled or swindled like I was, and just feeling very taken advantage of, as well as embarrassed, quite honestly. So that said, doing my research online, I basically, and don't mind me, I'm going to push back here from my desk. But, bottom line, I did a lot of research on Google and came across the American Society of Cost Segregation Professionals. And it was an extremely in-depth review of how people who are part of this American Society of Cost Segregation Professionals really separate themselves from those who aren't members. I don't know how else to put it. And I should state that there's a difference between being just a member and then also having somebody who's gone through the certification process, the testing requirements, to become what's called a Certified Cost Segregation Professional, a CCSP. And on that website, you can actually search in the member directory, what companies across the country have a certified cost segregation professional on staff. And so at the time, there were only about 43 individuals, actually less than that. There's 43 now. So there's only 43 individuals across the entire United States that hold that certified cost segregation professional designation. But at the time, I don't know, maybe there was 30 or so. But bottom line is, one company in particular had multiple, and that company was Bedford. And to me, that just really showed me that, here, I'm actually going to put this right here. That showed me that it was, Bedford, to me, Bedford really understood the importance of cost segregation and valued people, being trained and certified and so on and so forth. And interestingly enough, come to find out, the reason why that American Society of Cost Segregation Professionals was formed was because when the IRS kind of put out that audit technique guidelines in 2004, there really wasn't any it wasn't a regulated industry by the IRS. You basically just had to have a background in construction and engineering principles to be able to, put together a cost segregation study. And what was happening was there were a lot of providers out there, low cost providers, mom and pops that were putting studies together at how they thought they should be put together, but they also weren't diving into the case law, the cost seg court cases that have transpired since 1986, and really understanding what assets could be segregated versus which couldn't. And so it was really Bedford's founding founder and managing partner Greg Bryant and some others in the cost seg industry that came together to form this American Society of Cost Segregation Professionals in the mid-2000s, because they wanted to basically provide a space for cost segregation professionals to come, be a community, put together standard operating procedures, code of ethics, but also take part in the certification courses and the training that was offered to achieve this designation, this CCSP, Certified Cost Segregation Professional. And still to date, it's really the only certification in the entire country that is that's held, and quite honestly, it's held in high regard. And so from that moment on, I basically reached out to Greg Bryan himself, and we set up multiple interviews because I wanted to make sure I didn't make the first mistake. I wanted to make sure I did my due diligence, and I joined a firm that was legitimate and really took the industry seriously, because at the end of the day, I wanted a firm behind me that I felt comfortable, supporting me in my endeavors to go out there and spread the awareness and to educate. And so, as many of my clients who could be watching this will know, I oftentimes get on my soapbox about, it's up to clients, not the CPAs. It's up to clients to do their due diligence in vetting the cost seg provider before you make a decision. You cannot make a decision based on a good conversation you had, or a lunch, or just a basically a back and forth Q&A. You really use the American Society of Cost Segregation Professionals website as a tool, because they have done some of the vetting for you, and that CCSP designation is massive. Because as I found out the hard way, just taking somebody's word and listening to how they talk and sounding very knowledgeable and so on and so forth, come to find out, I essentially worked for a complete fraud and con artist for 3/4 of a year before joining Bedford. So you have to do your due diligence. This is an industry that, because it's not regulated, people have basically watered it down, and they have no business being in business, and they're putting clients at risk, because studies that are not done correctly are ultimately putting you at risk of IRS scrutiny. And although they say they come with an audit defense guarantee, I will be honest, I would not want to test that that line of every study comes with an audit defense guarantee. Lots of providers don't even have professional liability insurance. There's a whole slew of reasons that you should not just make your decision based on a good conversation, a fee. I mean, by all means, do not make your decision on who to select for a cost seg provider based on the fixed fee. This is not the type of scope that you want to competitively bid and go with whoever is the low bidder. This is something that Bedford has a one-page questionnaire, 10 questions to help vet any cost seg provider to ensure that they're on an equal or level playing field as Bedford is within the industry. I pass that out a lot to clients, and it takes the work off of them having to come up with the right questions to ask. So, again, I would just really implore that people take the time, get to know the provider, get questions answered, make sure that they have a certified cost segregation professional, at least one on staff, because it will, trust me, if the IRS gets involved, the amount of money and time that will be wasted trying to justify a bogus study going through an audit process, it will be an experience you wish you had put in the time and effort in the beginning to choose a legitimate provider from the start. So I think you get the point. Again, I thought this was a valuable topic to discuss. It's something I've been wanting to talk about for a while now, and obviously Bedford was my choice. They have all their engineering staff has at a minimum a 4-year engineering degree, if not being a certified cost segregation professional or an actual PE stamped engineer. All crucial things to understanding how buildings are built and being able to utilize the cost estimating software correctly, and not using templates. I can't tell you how many providers out there are just using recycling templates from other projects, and the studies are, you would be appalled by the studies I've seen from competitors who, from a marketing standpoint, you would think were in the upper echelon of the cost seg industry, and come to find out, in what my engineering technical team has discovered their studies would not pass muster with the IRS. And it's appalling out there. So protect yourselves, do your research up front, work with a legitimate provider from the very beginning. Don't get bamboozled by the gift of gab and low cost fees, and or even don't make your decision based on the amount of accelerated depreciation that somebody put in an estimate. These estimates are so easy to manipulate that a lot of providers know that clients will make their decision based on whoever is estimating the most accelerated depreciation. There's a couple of problems with that. I choose to go conservative. A lot of competitors are extremely aggressive. And what happens is the competitors who are aggressive put their engineers who have to actually do the studies into a compromising position, because now the engineers feel like they need to exaggerate the results to meet the estimate. Because who wants to give news back to a client that they weren't able to achieve the estimate? So it just puts the engineering staff of a given firm in a difficult position, and they're more inclined to potentially exaggerate numbers, which is the last thing you want as a client. You want a study that's done correctly from the very beginning, and there's no pressure to meet an estimate. So in any case, I appreciate your time. I apologize for the hockey hair. I've been taking advantage of COVID. But again, I want to be a resource partner. I want to educate, and I want to make sure people are aware and going into the cost seg process with eyes wide open. So appreciate your time, and please look for me on other podcast posts sharing helpful tidbits about the industry and making people and keeping people aware. Thank you. Bye-bye.